Welcome, Algebra 3. We're in Lesson 47, Part 1, otherwise known as A. We're going to talk about vertical sinusoid translations. So, refresher on sinusoids, we talked about the properties that they have, and one of the properties that we need to remember is whether or not it's positive or negative. So, if it is a sine sinusoid, that means that it is going to cross the y-axis at the midline of the sinusoid. So let's say this is the x-axis right here. That's a little bit better than that dotted line. And here's my sinusoid. I'm going to try really hard. And that wasn't really very hard, was it? Let me get some guide points on here. That'll help me a lot. So I'm just going to do really easy. Just something really easy here, just to give us a little. All right, so if it crosses right here at the midline of the sinusoid, we know that's a sine. That is the definition of a sine, right? If it crosses and goes down like this one does, it is a negative sine, right? Okay, let me give us another little axis set here. This is another little one. I'm going to use green this time. And it's going to cross at the origin, and this time it's going to go up. So it's crossing here, and it's going up like that. So if it crosses at the origin, and then it goes straight up from the origin, then it is a positive sine sinusoid. So those are your two different types of sine sinusoids. Now we also have cosine sinusoids. So here is another little example, just a refresher to refresh us. I'm going to do positive cosine first. So this would be here. I just have to give myself the little dots, or else I have a problem drawing it. All right, so this is a cosine. Why is it a cosine? Because it crosses the y-axis at the amplitude. And it is a positive cosine because it crosses at the positive side, or the upper side of the amplitude, right? So if I have another one, I'll show you a negative. And for the negative, I'll do the little pink like I did for the negative sign. So for a negative cosine sinusoid, it's going to cross, the amplitude is going to cross the y-axis at the bottom, or at the lower amplitude of the sinusoid. So you see the difference. This is a negative cosine. So that is how you tell the difference. If it crosses at the upper amplitude, it is positive cosine. If it crosses at the lower amplitude, it's a negative cosine. If it crosses and goes up first, it is a positive sine. If it crosses at the midline on the y-axis. If it crosses at the midline of the y-axis and then it goes down, it is a negative sine. So those are your four different types. Now, translation is going to be when we move it up or down. Vertical translation. So vertical means up or down, right? It's this way. So we're talking about translation on the y-axis. So that means the vertical sinusoid translation will be when we move it up or down on the y-axis. And remember that first little, or not little, but really big and scary formula that we had, where we had A plus B sine of C times theta minus D, that big scary thing? Okay. We are doing this today. we are adding the a. What we've been doing is the b being the amplitude of the sine, because all of these are centered right on the x-axis, which is at the 0. It's at the origin, right? So there is no a when we do these. A is going to be the y-intercept point. Remember when we do a linear equation and we have y is equal to mx plus b, and that plus b is the y-intercept? My pen just stopped. Come on, pen. Join us in the real world here. Well, this is not fun. Come on. It's trying to quit on me. There it goes. So that plus b was our y-intercept point, right? That's all the a is. In this scenario for a sinusoid, this capital A is going to be your y-intercept point. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to clear all of this out. If my pen will cooperate with me today, let's just clear the page. All right, and go back to my pen. So here, let's do a positive sine that has been translated. So here is my x-axis. This is my origin. I'm actually going to label it theta just for the sake of continuity. And I'm going to give us a sine up here, a sine sinusoid, and I'm going to make it positive. All right, so that's enough for us to get the illustration. All right, so I know it's a positive sine because it goes up when it leaves the y-axis. And it crosses the y-axis at the midline of the sinusoid. But the midline of the sinusoid is not on the x-axis. It's above. It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. It's at the 5, positive 5. So the equation for this sinusoid would be y is equal to 5 plus, we have an amplitude of 1, and it is positive because it's going up when it crosses the midline and the y-intercept. So it's plus 1 sine of theta. And technically, we don't write the 1 because we know 1 is always there. It's invisible, right? So plus sine of theta would be the way we would write that. So that's all it is. This is our y equals a plus b, and b is the amplitude, sine of theta. So this is your y-intercept, and this is your amplitude. This is going to be whether or not it's a positive or a negative sine or cosine sinusoid. Right? If it goes up, it's positive when it crosses the y-axis. If it goes down, it's negative. Easy peasy, right? You can do all of these in your sleep. So let's look at a practice problem. So here's our first practice problem, 47.1, and this is A. And this is a sine because it crosses at the midline right here. This is the midline of our sinusoid. But our midline is not at the x-axis. It's up the y-axis. So our y-intercept, y is equal to the y-intercept of 4, which is the midline. And then it goes up with an amplitude of 2. So plus 2. And because it crosses the y-axis at the midline, it is a sine of theta because this is labeled theta right there. All right. Easy peasy. You have to do zero math, except maybe a little bit of counting to write the equation of a sinusoid. It's super, super easy. Even the translation is easy. You're just whatever. If this is up 4, it's a positive 4. And if this were down here in the negatives, it'd be a negative 4, right? So let's look at another practice problem. So on practice problem 47-1b, we have a sinusoid that is on the negative side of the y-axis. So we are going to say y is equal to, and it crosses the y-axis, the midline is at the -5. So we would say -5. And then because it goes down 2, for our amplitude, before it curves back up, it's a negative amplitude. So -2 sine of theta. Easy peasy. There's just a few things you have to remember, and that is just what these things represent. This is where it crosses the y-axis at the midline. Of course, that's what makes it a sine, because it's crossing at the midline on the y-axis. And then this is the amplitude. And if it goes up first, it's a positive amplitude. If it goes down, it's a negative amplitude. And that's all we have for 47A. We're going to move on to Arc 10. But I want to talk to you about the unit circle first. But go ahead and do these practice problems after this video, and then we'll jump into Arc 10.